for us to be live once again. It's a Saturday night and it's raining. It's pouring rather. It's not even raining. It's pouring cats and dogs in Bangalore. So let's hope that, our internet does not really go alright. And we've got Jeet and Soumi like always. Expected results, Australia, England, both of them starting off their tourneys with a win against Sri Lanka and Bangladesh respectively. We will start off with the second game that we saw, which was England versus Bangladesh. A result that we all saw coming, but the way Bangladesh fought is something we'll also be happy with, something we also enjoyed watching. जो हमने कल especially India के साथ देखा was very heartening, and it was a pleasant surprise, so to say, the way Bangladesh fought against England. In fact, I would say for most part of the game, they were well and truly in the hunt. Like again, it's something that over time they will develop, be it power hitting, be it, getting better batters and whatnot. We've got Jeet and Soumi to start off with. तो पहले मैच समरी दिखा देते हैं and then we'll have them also talk about the game. कहाँ पे मैच समरी? यहाँ पे मैच समरी. So England won the toss and वहीं पे like we've spoken about during the preview as well. You know what? In Sharjah, win the toss, bat first is potentially going to become the template, and that was once again the case. England won the toss, opted to bat first, got off to a fantastic start with Danny Wyatt, who's recently become Danny Wyatt Hodge, along with Maya Boucher. A solid power play there, 47 runs in the power play. It almost seemed like 150 पार कर सकते हैं, but yeah, 150 पार तो बहुत दूर की बात है. 120 भी पार नहीं हुआ eventually. Thanks to the Bangla bowlers coming in, Fahima Khatun and Ritu Moni in the middle overs did a stellar job of not just stemming the flow of runs, but also taking wickets at regular intervals. Nigar Sultana Jyoti, of course, did a brilliant job of shepherding the team as well in terms of how they were going about their business and when to make those changes, be field placements and even bowler changes. Solid job there. They were able to restrict England to just 118, and at halfway mark, we all felt, this is a total that Bangladesh would have happily taken at the toss, and it did seem that way for, some part. Shati Rani once again going against both Nat Brand and Linsey Smith as expected. वो intent तो था ही. It's just that वो intent और execution के बीच वाला फर्क अभी उनको मिटाना पड़ेगा, and she's still some way away from that. Did not really do much. 7 of 9, of course. Skipper Nigar Sultana and Sobna Mustari were the ones who actually held the innings together in some sense, and that partnership was going to be very crucial before that unfortunate run out of Nigar Sultana. And yeah, that pretty much derailed the innings. Sobna Mustari, once again, the top scorer for Bangladesh. Just like the previous game, that day it was 36 of 36. This time around, it's 44 of 48, which helped Bangladesh somehow crawl to 97. Unfortunately, we were still 21 runs short of the target. For England, in return, it was Linsey Smith making a comeback to the side, playing the World Cup. Did a stellar job once again there as well. 2 for 11, including a maiden in the power play of 4 overs. And then, of course, there was also the likes of Charlie Dean and Nat Brand chipping in. Shomi, let's start with you. Second game. Bangladesh हमने expect किया था यार ये तो मतलब हारेंगी, but again the way they sort of fought through, especially with the ball in hand, was fantastic to watch.
I think yes, the effort that they put, especially it was showing up that they had really had a lot of hunger to come out here and win, and it was definitely a good team. And they did. There were points of time in the match where we felt that Bangladesh can steer this through. So especially like starting with I mean, of course, both the power plays definitely belonged to England. But when the match started, the first 3 overs of the game, Bangladesh really controlled England well. But then, of course, England came back very strongly in the power play. But then the kind of turnover that Bangladesh did with the ball, I think that was commendable. Even with the bat, yes, they did not have a good power play to start with. But when Nigar Sultana was batting, we had all the hopes that this might, somewhere turn into Bangladesh's game, because at that point of time, they were pretty much in control of the run rate. They probably needed a boundary of every over, which was difficult. But the way both the batters were gradually building up the innings, it was somewhere seeming possible. That run out was unfortunate. She just gave away her wicket and probably the match there. But commendable efforts. I mean, this coming from a team who had not won in the last 10 years, then go back, like come to a situation where they just lost their home World Cup, still putting up that kind of a show. Absolutely kudos to them. And when we compare that with India, I think huge ups.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, now all these results will be compared with what India did yesterday. So it's going to be hard for even India to go, to top what they did yesterday in all fairness. But Jeet, again, like Shomi mentioned in the first innings, the way they fought back, because they were already down and out in the power play, it seemed like this is going to be yet another game where England or rather English batters just dominate, the innings, the proceedings. Wasn't to be the case. Ritu Moni in particular, once again, yeah, first game in dekha samne, the way she bowled, but to be able to repeat that on the same surface against a solid English side, wow.
I think all pacers did a not only pacers, sorry, all the Bangladesh bowlers did a phenomenal job. Like you mentioned, they were 48 without loss. After that, there was a bit of a collapse. And then when Danny White Hodge was dismissed, it was snooze fest when Alice Capsey was out there in the middle and she was struggling as well. But I think even the power play was kind of divided into two halves. Where in the first 3 overs, I thought Bangladesh were bowling really well. They kept things very tight. The English openers were hitting it to the fielders in the ring, and they were kind of misfielding, and they were a little bit lackluster in terms of the collection of the ball. But they were keeping things tight, and they made the English openers scramble for each and every run. But it was the second half of the power play where the English openers were able to find those boundaries regularly. There was a drop catch as well of Maya Bouchier that was put down sadly by Rabea Khan. So I think that also could have perhaps changed things very early in Bangladesh's favor. But anyway, the comeback was really good after England were 48 without loss, and I think all bowlers did a phenomenal job. The way and the pace at which the Bangladesh spinners operated was, according to me, quite phenomenal. They were on the slower side, and I think one of the stats that came up when the day starts, that is before game one, was that I think 22 out of the 28 wickets picked by spinners were bowled at less than 80 kph. And that is where, all these Bangladesh spinners were operating, literally all of them. And when you check the average pace at which, they bowled, the numbers were 76, 75, 74, 73 for the four spinners. So I think they were commendable in terms of, making use of those conditions, and they were finding a bit of turn, which turned out to be really, really good. But yeah, coming back to Ritu Moni, I think a fantastic effort. Somebody who is a medium pacer, bowling in the range of say 92 to 99, and she was doing a phenomenal job of bowling her cutters. The bobble seam as well at 92 managed to outfox somebody like Heather Knight was phenomenal as well. So a fantastic job done by her in both the games. But eventually, again, it was the batting that ended up being a bit of a letdown for Bangladesh.
Yeah, that ball to Heather Knight is something I'll definitely go back and watch again because it just seemed too good to be true. When you beat a batter on their defense, it's like a dream come true because it's not something we see often enough. Now, again, talking about the English side of things as well, the way their batters batted, make no mistake, England are going to be playing 3 games here, including the one that they played today, and then they'll be playing South Africa in Sharjah and Scotland as well in Sharjah. So show me the way they batted against Spring, and matlab, you would expect a side like this. We spoke about it even during the team previews. Arguably one of the better top sixes in the top. You can expect them to come hard at you. The openers did, but later on to play well. Surely the other teams are taking a note out of how Bangladesh bowled against.
Exactly, and except for Danny Wyatt, I don't think anybody really got hold of the surface as well as the bowling. Of course, Maya Busher, she did show a lot of intent, and those those 30-35 runs that were scored in the second half of the power play that did fetch England. That entire total of 118, a big part of it came in from there. And but yeah, beyond Danny Wyatt, there was hardly anyone from whom at least the ones from whom we expected did really turn up well. For example, the way Natsivar Brandt was got out, and then of course Heather Knight got out, and especially the point of time, when Heather Knight is such a good player of spin, and at that point of time, probably England was expecting something from Heather Knight as well as Natsi Brandt. Those things didn't happen. Even later on, when Alice Capsey, the way she kind of gave away the wicket, she was probably under a little bit of pressure because of the dot balls that got that came in before that. So all ups to Bangladesh bowlers for creating that pressure. But saying all of that, England is such a strong batting unit. We expected a lot more coming from them. But at the same time, we will also have to give it to Sharjah's wicket. I think it was really slow. But they needed a lot of muscling to kind of put the balls out to the boundary. But as soon as, because of the slower balls, I think the put like really hitting it well was difficult. So yeah, I mean, there were it wasn't really a batting friendly condition, but considering it's England, we will definitely expect more.
Interesting. And again, Jeet, in terms of not just the batting, now that the bowlers also did really well, we sort of, when we came up with their probable 11, their starting 11 during the team previews, we'd gone ahead with the pacer as well. We'd gone ahead, if I'm not wrong, with Freya Kemp, as an option, so that they have decent options. Apart from who, I'm trying to think if we had any other
Lauren
pacer.
Bell. Lauren Bell.
को रखा था 11 में. अच्छा, Lauren Bell को भी रखा था. So Linsey Smith wasn't a part of the 11. I remember Sarah Glenn also wasn't a part. But really, horses for courses, given how the conditions were in Sharjah, they thought he was spin friendly. Might as well go with a proper spin choke. All in all, that spin, I can't even say quartet because there's also Heather Knight who didn't bowl. But that spin attack is really looking good.
They have Alice Capsey as well, but I think they do a lot of tactics or kind of insights from the first game. Because of course you're present at the ground, you're seeing the first game unfold in front of your eyes, so you pick up something from it. And I think this is one of the things that they picked up, which is to go ahead with an extra spinner. So I think when we had kind of predicted our 11, we had Freya Kemp in our 11, we had Lauren Bell, but it was Linsey Smith who was the only one who was missing out because we thought she might be a backup to Sophie Eccleston and might play only in those games wherein they think there is a matchup that could be in favor of the left-arm spinners, or where they want a bit of a pace coverage where Linsey Smith can bowl the new ball, because that is where she generally operates from. So maybe it was a matchup thing. Maybe they did actually look into the conditions in the first game that was going on. But I think all of them did a phenomenal job. Like I mentioned, I mean, there were additional options. I mean, Alice Caffrey, somebody who bowls as well. Heather Knight has not been bowling so frequently, but she was an option to go to as well. But a fantastic job, I would say, overall by spinners. But I still personally feel, I don't know how many of you are going to agree with me, but if I have to put it very blatantly, I would say that Bangladesh bowled a lot better than the English bowlers. But it's the firepower, the batting firepower, when you compare it to the both teams, that is where I think the difference is made, and that is when the result went in favor of England. Because had Bangladesh had similar sort of batting firepower, things could have been very different. So I still personally felt Bangladesh bowled better, but things didn't really pan out well for them. But even going to the first innings, I mean, another interesting point was, like we discussed offline, where they decided to promote Charlie Dean with, I think, less than 12 balls to go. It was a very puzzling call, in my opinion, because whilst I do understand that Charlie Dean has improved her batting significantly in the regional cricket as well, she's been scoring those runs, important runs. I think even earlier this year, she scored some handy runs against New Zealand in New Zealand. So from that time onward, her batting has definitely gone up a notch. But in T20s, you would still not back her. It's the 50 overs where her batting has improved significantly. And anyway, respectively, it doesn't matter what format we're talking about. Whenever there are less than 12 balls to go, you would generally prefer for Sophie Eccleston over Charlie Dean on any given day. So that was a puzzling call. It's just 2 balls that Eccleston got, and she kind of showed the impact that she could make. And at the end of the day, those 8 runs also end up being very, very big for England.
Yeah, potentially the difference between a match losing total and the total that they can not aram se but defend. Who knows? Again, it's all psychological, right? अगर बांग्लादेश 190 के, I mean 119 के बदले 110 चेस कर रहा होता, तो they might have looked at it differently and stuff like that. So we never know. Sure, they have a lot of batting firepower, but today our top performer of the game isn't an English batter; it's an English bowler who's sort of making a comeback. Jeet, again, in terms of Linsey Smith and the way she bowled both in the power play and outside. Oops, once again, sorry, wrong graphic. There we go, 2 for 11, a phenomenal start, and then also made into boot. Solid performance from her, during England's first game. Sorry.
Yeah, no, this is the impact that we were talking about, right? She operates in the power play and she knows how to get the job done that particular phase of the game. She has been very successful in regional cricket as well for Southern Vipers, where she takes a new ball and she's amongst the wickets time and again. Even during the 100, she took the most wickets in the power play of, I think, 25 balls is what we have in the 100. So in those 25 balls, she took the most wickets in the entire competition this season. So it goes on to show the kind of impact that she consistently has with new ball. And she's a smart operator as well, right? She doesn't turn the ball a lot. It's more about those arm balls that come back into the right-handers. But what's really important is the line. She consistently targets the stumps, and that is where she manages to keep the batters, I would say, test the batters regularly or frequently, because you have to be at the top of the game. once you miss, you will be caught in front of the stumps. Or if you use your feet, she has the smarts to, kind of slow it up a little bit and catch you outside the crease. So I think she was phenomenal in getting the job done tonight as well. Whether England continue with her or not will be interesting. I personally still think they will continue because, like you mentioned, three of the games that they play will be at Sharjah. And even today, if you look, then they didn't require the services of Danny Gibson with her pace. It was only Nat Brunt who operated as the sole pacer. So a fantastic job by Linsey. And even coming to her World Cup performance, she made her T20 World Cup debut back in 2018, which also happened to be against Bangladesh. Then she played one more game that season. Now she's again playing. So it's again Bangladesh that she came up against, and it was again a phenomenal job that she did.
Yeah, phenomenal job for sure in England. Of course, next play on Monday against South Africa in the very same venue in Sharjah, that is. In Bangladesh, meanwhile, now will have an extended break of 5 days. पहले 3 दिन में 2 मैचेस खिला दिए तो भी अच्छा खासा ब्रेक मिला, but they will be back yet again in Sharjah. That'll be the third and the last game in Sharjah for them, and that'll be against West Indies. So two interesting games, so to say, especially the England South Africa fixture, given how England have already played here and how South Africa played yesterday. That's definitely going to be a game to watch out for. In fact, we also spoke about how uh, a pre-quarters of sorts, and give us a fair understanding of who will stay on top of the group stage and who will stay second, and importantly, that will have a cascading effect on the semi-final and stuff like that. So lots to look forward there. Sorry for the stammer there. But coming to the game that we saw in the afternoon, Australia versus Sri Lanka in the very same venue. Australia playing their first game of the tournament once again. Pretty much made a meal, almost made a meal of what could have been a fairly simple chase. They were chasing, 98 if I'm not wrong. Let's have to match somebody out. And they lost 3 wickets in the power play. 94, beg your pardon, is what they were chasing. And yeah, lost 3 wickets in the power play. And it almost seemed like, yeah, यहाँ पे कुछ बन सकता है. And they almost lost. Beth Mooney as well had, I forget who dropped the catch, but had Sri Lanka held on to their catches, then Beth Mooney could have potentially been back in the pavilion before Australia crossed the 50-run mark. And from there, you never know. You never know. We've seen funnier things happen. But all in all, to just describe what we saw happen in the first game, Sri Lanka won the toss, opted to bat first, started off very slowly with two cricketer maidens of Megan Schutt and Ashley Gardner. It seemed like, okay, now probably Chamari Attapathi has taken time and she will let her bat do the talking. But unfortunately, before she could even do that, Ashley Gardner saw the back of her, got her out LBW. And then, of course, Vishmi Gunaratne was also soon dismissed. In fact, if I'm not wrong, Chamari was the second wicket to fall. And it never really got going for Sri Lanka, barring Harshita Madhavi, who was also their second highest run scorer. She scored 23 runs. Anushka Sanjeevani, the keeper, and Nilakshika De Silva also chipping in with crucial contributions. Anushka, in particular, given the pace at which she scored, I know 15 ball 16 is not exactly the quickest of knocks, but in the context of what Sri Lanka ended up with, that turned out to be a knock that helped Sri Lanka reach some semblance of a respectable total. Megan Schutt was the pick of the bowlers for Sri Lanka, apart from the spinner Sophie Molyneux and Ashley Gardner. Australia, of course, making light work rather of the chase. Beth Mooney in particular was, all red, literally and figuratively, in terms of how she was playing and how she was reacting. She was sweating buckets over there, and it almost seemed like, yaar, abhi isko wapas jana padega. Just don't make her play like this. It seems treacherous the way she's playing, but of course, she ensured that she stayed there till the end and saw through the chase. But Soumi, let's start with you there. Australia playing their first game of the tournament. Sri Lanka had already played once here. We'd spoken about how Sri Lanka could potentially start off with a bit of an advantage, but the first 2 overs showed कि यार कुछ advantage नहीं. Australia अपने लीग में वो देख लेंगे सब.
वो तो है ही, and I'll just go a little back, and I felt that Sri Lanka had a lot of backlog in their mindset when they started the game, especially at the toss when Chamari came out, and she started on a very negative note. She started really talking about the conditions, how the conditions are not batter friendly, and how they will be. And when she was asked that why they chose to bat first, she just said that they couldn't really sort out the batting in the last game. That is why they had picked up batting rather than talking really about their strengths. So she was relying a lot she was talking a lot about the negative aspects of the game, though she spoke about how they wanted to play positive cricket, but it felt like they already started on a back foot. compared to Alisa Hilly. I mean, I know that she is not regarded as the best of the Australian skippers, but at the same time, the kind of body language, the kind of confidence that she brought onto the table. She spoke about that, though it's a hot day, but they were expecting a lot more heat. There was a breeze flowing, so it was a lot more fresh. And she talked about how she's really looking forward to damage the batting of the Sri Lankans. So it was all about how you walk into that game. So right from the beginning, it felt Chamari was was taken aback. Secondly, of course, two maidens to start with. The first run of the bat kind of came in the third over. So yeah, I think the tone was set right in the beginning, and Australia made sure that once you give them a little taste of blood, they will of course put that noose around your neck. So it was inevitable after that.
Yeah, the new ball duo, especially Jeet of Ashley Gardner and Megan Schutt. Sure, they kept it very tight, but you can't hold it against Sri Lanka for starting off with two maidens, right? I for one genuinely thought कि ठीक है, मतलब 4 ओवर बचे हैं power play में, and it's important Chamari stays through till the end. Like there's no point अगर Chamari जल्दी चली जाती है. Of course, it's a different story कि वो out हो गई eventually. But what did you make of the way they started off?
No, I think a lot of credit to Australia as well because look, I'm a sucker for good tactics and good field placements and good plans and all of that. And Australia actually had implemented all of those really, really well in the power play itself, and that's how they started. Megan Schutt had some terrific field settings, and so did Ash Gardner. And not to forget, both of them were on point in the first over. So that is also something that really kind of went into it. Because if you look at the kind of pace at which Ash Gardner was operating and the kind of line she was consistently attacking the stumps against Chamari and Dupatu, and eventually the pressure got to her. So a terrific start by Australia. But with Sri Lanka, it was the same issue because Vishmi also, I think, got out for a 10-ball duck. And she's also had this issue of, giving those slow starts. And the same thing has been very evident with Chamari as well. As much as you would kind of not believe it, but the fact is that Chamari also is a slow starter. It's only later on when she, switches her gears and ends up with a quick fire knock, which has a strike rate in excess of 130 or 140. But starts are generally slow. And there was that one moment as well, that's been making the rounds on social media where Lisa Healy was into the years of Chamari Atapattu saying that, something around the big shot, where's the big shot coming, or play a big shot, something like that. And the next ball, she tried to play that sweet shot and was dismissed. So it didn't really pan out well. We have talked about Chamari and the kind of form that she's been carrying over the last 3 or 4 months, where she has been struggling to get going, struggling for those big knocks, the quick knocks. And the same thing has sadly started in this tournament as well, the 2 games so far. So it's been a struggle. Like even in the first game, we talked about how none of the batters had a strike rate of 100. Even in this game, only 2 batters managed a strike rate of 100. So across 2 games, it's been a snooze fest for Sri Lanka. Boundaries, I think that you mentioned, a total of 7 fours. That's all that they've hit across the 2 games. That's a very, very low number when you bat out for so long, when you bat out 40 overs or whatever that is. Just 7 fours is all that.
Without even months.
Yeah, exactly. So they've played out the 40 overs across the 2 games, and yet to manage just 7 fours out of these 2 games is a bit of a shocker. And that is where again it kind of reflects upon the dependency that they have on Chamari Atapattu. Once she's gone, the boundaries dry down. I mean, TK, it's a different thing that Chamari herself hasn't been able to find those boundaries, but yeah, a pretty poor performance again as far as the batting side of things are concerned for Sri Lanka. But at the same time, of course, Australians were phenomenal, barring Darcy Brown, who was having an absolute howler and a complete shocker. That's the only time she operated. 2 legal deliveries, 12 runs. She eventually finished with 12 runs off that 1 over, but that's the only role that she had to play in that game. Afterwards, she, I think, put down a catch as well. So, a pretty horrible. I think she was the only player who had a bad game. That's it. Rest all managed to have a good game. But collectively, it was a great effort from Australia as well. They showed great discipline thereafter as well. It was just that initial part where Darcy and even Megan Schutt, for that matter, was bowling a few low balls. But otherwise, as far as tactics are concerned, I think they were on point right from ball 1.
Yeah, and to be honest, again, because they were up against the slightly deflated Sri Lankan side, there was a higher margin for error. But Soumi, all those no balls, those extras, we've even spoken about this once again during the team previews. Australian pacers in particular tend to be slightly inconsistent and tend to be slightly inaccurate. So inaccuracy choda, like extras and being wayward, these are the kind of things that are in your control. You wouldn't want to give away no balls, left, right, and center. And conceding 5 no balls, all of them in the power play, that's a bit much.
Yes, exactly. And if you just look into even the power play of Sri Lanka, I think they scored somewhere around 23, 24 runs, of which 12 runs came from that Browns over. And also, I think 4 or 5 extras came out there. So I think pretty shambolic in terms of, I mean, again, considering that they are the defending champions, they are looking for their fourth trophy. That kind of a those kind of extras. Plus, I think they were a little shabby on the field as well. Quite a few misfields. We have spoken offline that we were not really very impressed with Healy's keeping. So I think quite a few things there that other teams are looking at, and especially somebody like England who will who looks very strong, and they will be looking at really taking on Australia. So yeah, I think those are the spaces that Australia really needs to pull up their socks and work towards it.
For sure, especially considering the fact that they will next be playing New Zealand, who themselves showed, yeah, we're not pushovers, we're here to actually stake a claim for the trophy. So it won't be easy for them there. And sure, 3-0 Harake are entering the World Cup and all of that, but this is a different place, this is a different tournament, it's a different platform. So they would want to ensure that, they learn from their mistakes. And yeah, if there's one side you'd back, yeah, jo bhi ho galti agar karte to seek ke aage badhte hain, that would be this Australian side. They're very professional to sort of, make such mistakes or repeat such mistakes again and again, especially at an event like the World Cup. But Jeet, in terms of the 11 itself, Australia went ahead with Darcy Brown ahead of Taylor Bleeman, and there was no signs of Grace Harris. Again, fair injury shout, wo bhi tha, and on top of that, this 11 looked fairly settled. What did you make of this 11, and do you see sort of any more changes going forward?
No, generally Australians aren't somebody who get so flustered so quickly. They generally stick to it irrespective of the outcome that they get out of most games, which is generally wins. But they generally don't like to change or tinker around so much with that playing 11. So despite Darcy Brown having had a bad day, I don't think they'll just kind of remove her after holding that 1 over. They'll still continue to back her and hope that she comes good, finds that confidence again. And with Darcy, it's not really an issue. I mean, she is a phenomenal bowler at her age. She has done so much wonders in both the formats of the game. She has been fantastic. It's just that time to time she has had this tendency of having these kind of games where she ends up being very very wayward. But then having said that, adding Taylor Fleming doesn't guarantee that lack of waywardness, because Taylor also is somebody who's wayward. She also holds quite a few extras. So it's just about whom they really want. It's just that there might be somebody in Fleming who likes to attack the stumps a bit more, who was previously quicker than Darcy. Now I'm slightly skeptical after the injury that he's been, having time and again. After that, I feel the pace has dropped. Whereas Darcy is now, I think, quicker than Taylor, but it's still yet to be seen. But otherwise, I don't really see any kind of changes happening, going to the next game. They'll probably stick around with that, and they don't need to change anything either. It's been working really well for them. Grace Harris, like you mentioned, there could still be injury concerns with her, and she didn't play or feature in any of the 2 warm-up games either. So there might be some kind of niggle that she could still be potentially carrying. So we don't know about that. But otherwise, they have settled in, and I don't see a need for them to, really change it. They have been phenomenal.
Yeah, they've been phenomenal for sure. And 2 names you took, of course, Darcy Brown, Taylor Bleeman. They are a part of the pace troika, so to say. Megan Schutt being the other, who also happens to be our top performer for the day. A fantastic bowling spell from her, especially with the new ball. We've always come to, sort of talk about her booming in swingers and all of that, the leg cutters especially. But a 3-foot well, when 4 overs, when you've bowled 2 of them in the power play. Soumi, let's start with you again. A solid spell to set the tone for Australia in the World Cup.
Exactly. And I mean, it was as you rightly say, when you are starting a World Cup and you have a spell like that, and you pick up the openers, I think that kind of set really a good tone for Australia to go ahead. Yeah, I think brilliant performance out there.
And Jeet, again, just to add to that, we've always spoken about Megan Schutt with the new ball. There's also that leg cutter. If I'm not wrong, she got a wicket off of that as well. But again, that when Megan Schutt is in form and is doing well for Australia, in control for Lisa Healy.
Yeah, she's too good, yeah. She has that experience and she always brings it to the fore. She's very impressive. And now she is also the joint leading wicket taker in the T20 World Cups. having equaled Shabnam Ismail. So that's another accolade that she's added, and she's fantastic, yeah. And what really stands out for me is her control in terms of the line. I know she bowled a few no balls, but that's a different thing. That's a different discipline where she is lacked, which is something that's still not so familiar with her. But it's that in swing, right? Because you have seen quite a few of these in swing pacers that have become a bit of a common feature in most of the teams in women's cricket, right? You'll have a new ball hooping in swing bowler. So with such kind of attributes or such kind of skills that you have, it's important for you to nail your line and also your length. And that is where I think Megan Schutt stands out from, say, Renuka Singh or even Jessica for that matter. She's on point with her accuracy in terms of hitting the stumps. The pace as well is pretty good. Like, I was not expecting her to be in that 105 mark, but she was up to that mark and she was doing a beautiful job. And like other in-swing bowlers as well, it's pretty common for them to resort to that in-swing with the new ball. And when they come back in the back end of the innings, they start resorting to their leg cutters. And that's also something, that's also an area where she's really good and accurate in outfoxing the batters. And her pace doesn't drop that much. It's a very less drop from her in-swing ball. So that's where she's fantastic as well. And we did see even Renuka Singh being entrusted with the death overs, right? Which is something that you'd not have expected. But she did a good job, and so did Megan Schutt. Even she was entrusted with that death bowling, and she did a fantastic job. So kudos to her.
Yeah, for sure. And it'll be, very interesting to see how Megan should also bowls in Dubai, because that's supposed to be a lot more conducive to pace and to swing movement as well. We saw Ayabonga Kaka as well moving the ball into the right-hander very, very, very prodigiously. So, yeah, that's that. From the two games that we wanted to talk about, we started off with Bangladesh versus England. That happened just about an hour ago, half an hour ago. And then we also reviewed what we saw earlier today when Australia took on Sri Lanka. Now it's time for us to talk about the two games that are coming up tomorrow, including the very, very, very important India-Pakistan fixture. Before that, please, guys, make sure you hit the like button if you haven't already. And please, please, please do make sure you subscribe to us if you haven't already. Of course, let's look ahead to what's coming up tomorrow. India versus Pakistan, and that's coming live from the Dubai International Cricket Stadium. And that's at 3:30 p.m. sharp Indian Standard Time. And then it's Scotland taking on West Indies once again from the same venue, Dubai International Stadium. And that's coming live from Dubai at 7:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. India Pakistan se start karte hain, of course, because it is the afternoon game. It's going to be India and Pakistan's only afternoon game, and it's also happening in Dubai. India have already played there, Pakistan haven't played there. But again, Jeet, let's start with you on that. Expectations, thoughts, कहाँ से start करना है?
यार एक तो इतना बिल्डअप होता है for India Pakistan, but it's not that big a battle when it comes to women's cricket. But having said that, you cannot shrug off Pakistan just like that, because as things stand, India has started with a loss and Pakistan has started with a win. So the scales are very, very different this time around. So I wouldn't kind of just brush off Pakistan and say कि India jeet jayega. It's not that easy or not that straightforward. Plus the fact that Dubai mein where, of course, Pakistan have more experience in the UAE overall. So it should be a good battle. Of course, Pakistan will be a lot more confident. India, with their confidence and everything pretty much dwindling around after that game one, plenty of questions having come up, quite a few answers for them to answer. Whether they tweak it or not, I don't know. But I'm just kind of so puzzled as far as the toss patterns and everything is concerned, because everybody was talking, right? Toss is going to have a huge impact when the toss goes first. The dew is going to come into the play later on and all that stuff. I know it's a day game, but last time around, the one thing that I found out from the comms team over there is that they are using the anti-dew spray for the games at Dubai. So that is having its impact. Because last time around, during that second game, there was a bit of dew. But there wasn't a lot of dew that people were expecting. And that is probably because of that anti-dew spray that the groundsmen are using. So it's probably doing its charm. It's working its charm. But anyway, it's a first game. So it should be interesting to see how things go around this time around. Because South Africa had opted to bowl first and it worked out well for them. So I don't know how teams are going to approach this. In terms of what's good for both teams, I would still say India will be better off batting first, putting a total ahead of themselves and looking to defend that. Whereas Pakistan also kind of have the same logic that applies to them. So it should be interesting, but I would still say Pakistan will be a lot more confident. I don't know how the result is going to pan out, but you can never be so confident when it comes to, say, women's cricket or any of the ICC tournaments that happens in women's cricket. You've seen too many results, go against what your line of thinking would be.
Fair enough. And again, in terms of what we saw yesterday and the day before from India and Pakistan respectively, show me thoughts on the Indian side. First of all, do you see any changes happening? And secondly, what are you expecting from them, especially from a mindset POV? Because clearly that was a very demoralizing defeat. And even in the post-match presser, Jenny spoke about how they would want to forget this ASAP and just move on to the next game with a blank slate. क्या लगता है वहाँ पे?
So I think considering that we have had a defeat by a big margin, I think it's almost like a must win now, and otherwise it's pretty much out of the tournament. The What I would want to really see from India is definitely the batting balance and how they actually span out in terms of like really relooking at the batting order. Do we really continue with that top heavy kind of an approach, or we kind of span out the batters across the across the depth? So that's something that I would really want to look at, because what happened in the last game was, of course, that since we had all the top three guns on the right up there, once the openers didn't really fire, the middle order kind of got exposed and it didn't really work out. So do we really go ahead with that, or we have a little bit of a difference there, is something that I would really try to look at. Uh, Looks like there will be a change. Definitely having a batter right up there can make some difference. And especially the way we are looking at the games, there is a little bit of a challenge in terms of in terms of the batting department and in getting big scores out there. So having an extra batter would be definitely adding up some cushion. So that's something that I would really look ahead at, and yeah, that's where the mind is.
Fair enough. And Jeet, again, same question to you in terms of changes. Do you see India, slotting the likes of Harman, Jemmy, and Richard 4, 5, 6 respectively by bringing in a batter at number 3? Or do you expect them to now that they've already started off this way and they have trusted this sort of new strategy they've come up with, do you think they're going all in on that?
यार ईगो पे आ जाता है eventually, because you've tried something, you've planned out something, it hasn't worked out in game one, so you wouldn't want to change that, right? Because you want to prove it to people that, hey, look, this was my mindset and it is working out, or it's going to work out. So it's not going to happen, sadly. I don't want to hold them to gunpoint here because it might have been work, but this is puzzling to me that Harmanpreet was their solution for number 3, because वही खेलना था तो दयाल हिंदुता was playing that kind of that brand of cricket anyway for you. But with Harmanpreet as a decision or as a choice at number 3, it's just surprising that they had this, pre-decided for a long time from the kind of stuff that I heard or that we have been reading. So why would you just kind of give her a sample size or 2 games overall? And that was warm-up games. So you decide something, you try that out for 2 warm-up games, and that's your decision. That's the solution. And it didn't work out in those warm-up games either. So it's very, very puzzling as to what their rationale was. And that's why I'm saying I don't want to hold them to gunpoint, because I just want to understand what the thinking is, because it might as well work out. But surprising that, then you can't even kind of say that it didn't work out, because at the end of the day, the number 3 batter was our top scorer yesterday. Harmanpreet with a 15 was our top scorer, so you can't point any fingers at them either. But besides that, coming to that particular question, I don't see that batting order changing at all. It's going to remain the same. They'll stick to it, and they want it to work as well. It's just that the combination needs to kind of change down the order, because that's one of the things that we were discussing, right? In terms of the extra pace option that they went for. So if Pooja Vastrkar had injury concerns, then why did she even play that game? एक ही over dala, and then your number 3 choice pacer bowled 4 overs, and all she was doing was cutters after cutters after cutters. So your batting ends at number 6, and then you have to rely upon your bowling all-rounders to deliver, all of whom are out of form. So 6 pe hi khatam ho raha hai. So why not add an extra batter, go ahead with 5 frontline bowlers, and have somebody like Harmanpreet chip in or Shefali chip in if required. 2 ही ओवर निकालना पड़ेगा, वो तुम उनसे निकाल सकते हो. So क्यों you need a 6th bowler in your option or 6th frontline bowler in your team? That is something that I was not able to understand. So that's the only place where they might potentially look to add one of the batters. It's something we discussed, right? It could be Yastika, it could be Sachna that they might look to add. Potentially Yastika is whom I'm thinking now, because they would want somebody experienced. Plus, Pakistan have got 2 left-arm spinners on the side, and the potential addition of Tasma Rubab as well if Diana Baig is unfit. So they might
I
look to add Yestika, yeah, and the wrist spinners as well in their side. So Yestika might get a nod ahead tomorrow. And besides that, at least I would still want to see Radha Yadav come into the 11 ahead of one of Asha Shobna, Sriyanka Patil, whomever they want. And that is purely from a variety perspective. Because Radha Yadav is somebody who, flights the ball up. She is very full. But here, if you look at the boundary dimensions, the straighter boundaries are turning out to be very, very long as compared to the square boundaries. So that might as well work. Yeah, so that might as well work, right? If you're floating it up, you're getting the batter to hit it down the ground. You could always have a long off and long on. She might be caught. Any batter can be caught. So challenge them to, clear that boundary, clear the straight boundaries, and it could as well work in favor. But for me, it's more of that variety perspective. But other than that, yeah, वो batting order change नहीं होने वाला और ये potential change maybe Yestika for Arundhati and Radha is my personal choice. But let's see.
Interesting, and
Also,
again,
just a thought, like, I mean, just putting Harman up there, she's anyway a good power hitter. So, aren't we like really losing the potential of Harman that Harman can actually bring on if there's a necessity down the order?
again, I feel it's more a factor of her recent form as well. She's not been in the greatest of form. So, agar us role में भी खिलाना है, like they're not. I don't know. Even I'm not sure of how the think tank is looking at her right now. I'm guessing the idea was form maybe utna nahi, so maybe sending her up top and getting her more game time, more balls under the belt would probably help her, but it's not worked. Yeah, Jeet.
So my rationale is very, very simple because so far, if one of the patterns is to go by in all the games that are taking place at either venue, you need to maximize the power play. It's very, very important for you to get off to a quick start or manage 45 plus on the power play. So if India is losing one wicket very, very early, it's Harmanpreet who's walking in, who takes time to settle, which means she'll end up with say 9 of 10 in the power play and all that stuff. So it's not going to work out, right? You're not maximizing the power play because she's not an aggressive option. So unless and until the message is very clear to Harmanpreet, you have to go ahead and you have to attack, just play a attacking game rather than natural game, which is to start slowly and then build or accelerate. Then it's a different thing. But if she's coming out there and again dotting up in the power play after Shefali has been dismissed, or Shefali has been struggling, so Shefali has been dismissed. So it doesn't make any point whatsoever or any logic whatsoever. You'd rather have an aggressive batter walking in, capitalizing upon the power play, and then let others build around that. So that is also somewhere where you're going to question the rationale of the team management.
Yeah, and to be honest, I've already made a bold call on that. I'd spoken about this during the previews itself. He's Sadia Iqbal, an in-depper. Shefali Verma cleaned up. That's what I feel. I can see that happening, especially given how she's not been able to make a lot of runs. Even yesterday, it was a very soft dismissal off of Eden Carson, if I'm not wrong. So it'll be interesting to see यहाँ पे क्या होता है. But of course, India के बारे में काफी बात किया. थोड़ा पाकिस्तान के बारे में भी बात करते हैं. Because it is India versus Pakistan for a reason. With this side, they are doing really well. They must be happy. They must be chuffed with the kind of result they were able to secure on day one of the tournament. In terms of changes, again, Jeet, barring that Tasmia Rubab, late entry because of Diana Beg's injury, they won't be looking at anything else. But that batting in particular, like if I have to be honest, both sides will be relying on their bowling a lot more to win this game. So given that both sides would naturally also want to bowl second, apart from the fact that, heat and all of that, they would want to stay in control in the second half of the innings, and the best way to do that would be by way of their bowlers. So how do you look at that playing out? Should Pakistan get to bowl second, then how do you look at that sort of playing out, Indian batters versus Pakistani spinners?
India would still kind of fancy the chances. The day game, and that's the only reason I'm saying that. It should still be slightly better for India, I would perhaps think. But besides that, a lot is going to ride upon Fatima Sana to get the job done, because she's pretty much going to end up being the sole pace in the side, or sole experienced pacer, if I may put it that way. Because if Tasmia Rubab comes in, she has that inexperience. Alia Riaz has not been rolling her arm over, so we don't know because it's still uncertainty. So a lot is going to ride upon Fatima Sana, and I think she's going to be really, really vital in the power play for Pakistan, even over Sadia Iqbal. And of course, Sana is somebody who attacks the stumps as well. So I think she, for me, is a matchup against Shefali that could really work in Pakistan's favor. So that's something I'm looking forward to. But besides that, I'm not too sure. Diana Beg plays, and it should be good for them. Because originally, when I was watching live visuals from the side on those replays and everything that was coming, and I thought, she's kind of rolled her ankle over. But as she walked back, you realize that it's not an ankle issue. She hasn't rolled her ankle over. So it's perhaps a lot more serious than what we initially thought or what I initially thought. So she could potentially be ruled out. So yeah, a lot will ride upon Fatima Sana. And after that, there is also a chance that Nida Dar is, of course, going to be being utilized very very early because the matchup is very very well known now. Just ball and off spinner who's got the smart through Smriti Mandana, and it might as well work for you. So that should be something interesting as well. But other than that, Pakistan, I think they'll still have to pull off a few more tricks in order to trouble India. It's a day game, so I think India should do a lot better as compared to previous game against New Zealand, which was, of course, in the evening.
Yeah, chalo, fair enough. And again, speaking of Nida, that yours truly also got a chance to talk to her as well, and that's the interview link. Please do check it out. She speaks about a lot of things, including her inspiration, which is someone from the Indian side. Who is that? Please check the interview out to know more. But show me this question from Alan. What do you think? Will India be comfortable chasing tomorrow? Because PTSD of sorts, kal to Hardy given how they chase. Do you think they would be comfortable chasing, or they would want to bat first and not have that scoreboard pressure over them?
I think looking at the pattern, they would definitely want to bat first, but at the same time, there's definitely, as Jeet mentioned, especially in women's cricket, there's hardly anything that we can talk about when it comes to this kind of a India-Pakistan clash. Both the teams will start with some amount of positives under their belt, but it's a must win game for India, and hence they will be under a lot of pressure.
Fair enough. All right. So, एक game हो गया, एक बचा. Of course, the two games happening tomorrow as well, and the noon game, India versus Pakistan. The evening game, of course, coming to that, Scotland versus West Indies, coming live from Dubai, and both these teams are entering this game off of losses. So maybe Scotland would be a lot more, proud of their efforts, but West Indies can surely not say the same. Show me, how do you see West Indies now, matching up against Scotland? It is a relatively weaker side. It's an associate nation. West Indies also are coming off a 10-wicket loss against South Africa. Kya lag raha hai वहाँ पे?
I think number one, West Indies does have a few injury concerns as well. I think that's something that they would want to work on. And Hayley Matthews, I think we expect a lot more from Hayley Matthews coming into this game. The way they kind of lost the plot in front of South Africa, I think that wasn't something that we were expecting out of a team like West Indies. And especially even if we look back into the previews, we were expecting some kind of good cricket out there from West Indies. So yeah, I think especially the top order, we would try to see how they are performing. Again, batting will be something that they need to really work upon.
Yeah, again, speaking of batting, Jeet, Kiana Joseph, of course, took that blow to her head. Maybe, again, I'm not at the risk of sounding very, very, very obnoxious. Maybe that will knock some senses into the head. Ki yaar, isko open nahi karana hai. Do you see that at least them going back to their regular opening pair tomorrow?
That was not Kiana Joseph, no, that was Deda James.
Oh, wait, no, that
She took it to the chin.
Oh, Kiana Joseph took the over from her.
Yeah, it was Deda James who was hit on the chin. So that's one of the injury concerns. Indeed. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that we were discussing, that I bloody hate how, those two warm-up games end up influencing your decision in the main tournament that sees you do something that you have never done before. Now, Kiana Joseph, of course, has opened previously, and she does bat higher up the order as a pinch hitter in the WCPL. But yeah, come on, against quality openers, this is not WCPL. It's not going to work out against quality bowlers. And that's where I've got a bit of a fear. Against Scotland, if she ends up if she ends up giving a quick cameo, she's going to continue to open. So that's where I'm slightly worried that it might happen. But besides that, I think they'll still continue with Kiana Joseph. But Scotland can dismiss her, and I hope they do, so that Kiana Joseph goes back down the order and adds a firepower that they miss down the order. So I don't see a change as far as that's concerned. But besides that, yeah, I think West Indies do need to pull the socks up and step up the game. Stephanie Taylor also has a few injury concerns because she was the one who was holding the fort in the first game. She batted for a very, very long time. But I think she also should be fit. So I would just want them to go back to what they have been trying off late, where they start with Haley Matthews and Stephanie Taylor as openers, where Haley, of course, capitalizes the power play and Stephanie kind of holds one end up, and then go for Shemaine Campbell number 3, Deandra Doughton number 4, and then have those attacking options in Ali Airlane and Kiana Joseph. Chidian Nation पता नहीं क्या कर रही है ये side में, that's a different thing. But from bowling perspective as well, one of the things that we had discussed was Shamila Connell. If you are picking Shamila Connell and introducing her, I think after the power play, then there is no point of having her. Yeah, exactly. There is no point of introducing her that late because she's very effective with the new ball. So you'd rather give her the new ball rather than bring her in the 9th over or just not have her at all. Invest in an extra batter if you want, for that matter. So other than that, I would still say this might as well end up being a closer game than what most of us would anticipate. Scotland have the guns, they have the bowling guns, so that should be interesting. But yeah, it should be a close encounter, and I wouldn't be too surprised if Scotland end up pushing them right to the last ball as well, because West Indies have kind of lost hopes after what I saw in the first game in terms of tactics that were at display when they were on the field. To not be able to take a single wicket was as symbolic as it gets. So another option that I had on my mind was going with Zeda James as their opener. Zeda James is technically very, very good. And she, I think, used to open for her under 19 side as well. So when the under 19 T20 World Cup took place a couple of years ago, she was opening. I remember that pretty well. And even for a domestic side before that T20 World Cup, she was an opener when she had caught my attention. And she's technically very good as well. So she's another option. If you want to go for that left hand, right hand combination, you could always go for Zeda James. And of course, she needs to be fit, which I hope she would be, because luckily the blow was on her chin. So she hopefully should be good to go. But other than that, it should be a close encounter, in my opinion.
Yeah, fair. And to be honest, the blow was also cushioned by her hand, so it wasn't straight onto the chin. So you would want to believe it's not a serious injury, hopefully, fingers crossed. And I do agree on the part that Zaida James also looked a lot more technically sound batter, which is what you need for someone batting against the new ball. Because Kiana Joseph seemed all let's see, kuch kar nahi pai thi. Again, if she comes in, Catherine Bryce with those in fingers yet again will cause a lot of trouble to her. And now, in terms of Scotland's batters as well, Soumi, in the first match we saw, it was Sarah Bryce with that 52 ball 49, staying through till the end, which is what ensured that they actually came a lot more closer than they should have. Their batting solely depends on the Bryce sisters. Do you think that over dependence could potentially be exploited by the Windies? Haley Matthews comes and takes a couple of wickets from the other end. Sarah Bryce akeli kitna kar payegi?
Exactly. I think that, and that's the limitation they will, of course, have. They are coming into the tournament for the. I mean, they are newbies there. Of course, West Indies comes in with a lot of experience. So that's I think that's something that West Indies will definitely try and use up, because once you get the Bryce sisters under your belt, then it's pretty much it'll be a much more easier battle for West Indies to take it out. But yeah, as Jeet mentioned that I mean the intent that Scotland had shown in the last game, that might come as a surprising element as well as X factor for the team, and that's where we can expect a good battle.
Interesting. And again, Jeet, in terms of the 11, Scotland, of course, last time played around in Sharjah, and now they'll be back in Dubai, or I don't know if it's back, but now they'll be playing in Dubai. Any changes? Potentially another pace option if needed. It was Rachel Slater and Catherine Bryce with the new ball last time around. Do you see them shoring up their pace bowling reserves, or Joe Head, he can stick to the same 11?
At least if that day one at Dubai is something to go by, both teams or all teams went pace heavy from what I recollect. So
yeah,
I wonder if Scotland will be influenced with that, in which case their additional option is Chloe Abel. But I don't think they need to tinker with their playing 11 or in terms of the composition of pacers and spinners, because they do have the extra pace option, Priyanas Chatterjee, that they could always go to if they want to utilize her and get that outswing going against right-handers, in particular Haley Matthews, who did struggle against Marzan Cap against that similar type of delivery. So that's an option that they could go to for with the new ball. But otherwise, I don't really see a change in their playing 11. Where I'm just hoping a bit of a change comes is where I'd kind of recommended where Sarah Bryce goes back to number 4, where she has been the most successful batter for them. And like I also mentioned, that it's not easy in the day game if you're keeping the gloves for 20 overs. and then coming out as opener and batting out 20 overs, it's a different challenge in the kind of heat that we have got in the UAE. I know the same thing is done by Alisa Healy as well. But that's where you need to understand that Alisa Healy doesn't put a price on her wicket. She's just going to come out there and going to attack. And in a bid to do so, she's going to get out. But Bryce does put a price on her wicket, and she's probably going to anchor along and takes it very, very deep. So it's a different brand of cricket that both of them play. So just to ease that workload on Sarah Bryce, I would want to see her go back to number 4, where she has been very, very successful for most of the teams, including the Welsh Fair in this season's 100, and have Ailsa Lister open, where she has opened previously, and that's where she's a lot more comfortable. She's technically very good as well, and she's one of the more attacking batters in the side. So that's probably going to take a bit of load off Saskia Horley as well. And that way, Sarah Bryce also can kind of get a bit of a breather between 2 innings. But like you mentioned, a lot of dependency is upon the 2 Price sisters. But I would also put Saskia Horley's name into the hat as well. I feel she has been phenomenal for Scotland as well in terms of being very, very consistent and scoring as well. It's just that she's also a bit of a slow starter and takes a bit of time to get going. But otherwise, I wouldn't put it beyond or past her to score some runs against the West Indies tomorrow or end up as a top scorer for Scotland tomorrow.
Yeah, to be honest, Saskia Holi was a name even I was looking forward to, given her exploits during the World Cup qualifiers. Bat की जगह ball के साथ उन्होंने अच्छा कर दिया. 3 for 13 pick of the bowlers. I was like, अरे यार, ये क्या googly फेंक दिया? Batting देखने आया था, batting तो किए नहीं आप. So let's hope we get to see a lot more of her. Like we've discussed earlier as well, she also has a bit of experience down under, like Priyana's strategy. But Jeet, one last question: should they go for an additional pacer? I'm not sure, because अगर उनको if they sort of did back Priyana's strategy to sort of bowl, I didn't see her bowl even during the warm-ups from what I remember. She didn't bowl in the first game as well. Not sure if it's injury or them not trusting the bowling. Should they go for another pacer? Who do you see going out? Will it be Olivia Bell? Because we would want to see her as well in the 11.
Yeah, I think it will be Olivia Bell who might face the axe in that case, much against my will. But that's the only option where they can make that change, because look, at the end of the day, they've got multiple off-spin options. They've got Catherine Fraser who's been outstanding. We of course saw the impact that Saskia Horley had, and like I mentioned after the first game that Scotland had, that Darcy Carter is the other option that they've got to roll her arm over as an option. So they've got multiple options.
Spinner, right?
Who? Yeah,
no, Darcy Carter is a spinner, right?
Yeah, Darcy Carter is an off spinner as well. So they've got 3 options plus Olivia Bell as their 4th off spinner on the side. So if Chloe Abel is to come in, then it has to be in place of Olivia Bell. Otherwise, I don't see anybody else really going out.
Fair enough. All right. Final thoughts, prediction time. बस ऐसे ही लेते हैं. कल इंडिया पाकिस्तान है, West Indies Scotland है. 2 games that'll be fun predicting results for. Soumi, let's start with you. India versus Pakistan. क्या लग रहा है? Who's winning it?
This is such a no-brainer. I'll have to say India. I mean, what else do you expect? Do you want to be cancelled?
हम तो already cancel हो चुके हैं भाई. ये हफ्ते मेरा कोटा खत्म हो गया है, तो I'll have to renew my quota. I've been cancelled enough. But I'll actually, for some, just to play devil's advocate, I'll say Pakistan. अभी please skip करके कोई कुछ डालना मत. But yeah, I'll go for Pakistan because, to be honest, yeah, I've also had the chance to speak to a few of their players. And when you sort of understand, the backroom staff and what they're also trying to do, the works that are being done. In fact, even Fatima Sana spoke about it in the not post-match presser, but in the pre-match presser yesterday night, about how, she's been working specifically on her range hitting. They've brought in power hitting coach supposedly, and she's been specifically working on range hitting and all of that. She's got drills and whatnot to focus on it, and we saw that come good. In fact, across the 4 games that we've seen in Sharjah so far, she's the only one to have played more than 10 balls and have a strike rate over 120, and she scored at a strike rate of 150. There was a 20 ball 30 for her, and that was the difference between the two sides. So should she able to come up with a cameo like that tomorrow as well, that's good enough. So I'll just go for Pakistan, not just for the heck of it. Genuinely think he had chance to have potential to have. So जीत सकता है. And yeah, Jeet, what about you?
मैं तो anyway neutral हूँ, so इतना फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. But still, my brain says it will be India and the West Indies will pull it through. both could as will be very, very close encounters, but I think these two teams too still have an upper hand in terms of the resources that they've got for the conditions.
I'm going for Pakistan and Scotland. I'm hoping for a repeat of the 2022 World Cup where the men's side defeated the West Indies men's side for the first time ever in a World Cup. Show me, what about you? West Indies, Scotland, kaun jeet raha hai?
I would support the underdogs, of course. I'll support Scotland. And just adding up a little bit to your Pakistan point, I mean, yes, of course, we would all want India to win, but the again the way where Pakistan had fought through the last game, and of course, understanding their resources around women's cricket. If Pakistan pulls off a win, we wouldn't be genuinely upset as true lovers of the game. So yeah.
बट हम जैसे लोग बहुत कम है तो बाकी पूरे लोग जो अपसेट होंगे वो हमारे पीछे आएंगे but that's a story for another day. Anyway, that's that from us. It is 11:48 p.m. on a Saturday night. Thank you so much all of you tuning in. I know it's the weekend and whatnot, but tomorrow it is a bumper encounter, of course, between India and Pakistan. The rivalry we all like to hype up, but it usually fails to match that hype. But let's hope tomorrow is not one of such days. Tomorrow we get to see a thrilling encounter. That's all we're here for. And same is the case from the evening game as well between West Indies and Scotland. So we will be back same time tomorrow, 11 p.m. ish. Until then, it's a goodbye from all of us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure to hit the like button if you haven't already. Bye bye. Ta-ta. See you.